Good morning. Today we are completing the stories, the series about Joseph in Egypt. There is just one thing that we have to address, the wonderful privilege of blessings. Now, we speak blessings out over people or curses. I wish you die, because that's a terrible curse you put on a person, eh? And so we must try and rather speak blessings than curses, because it might come true. Now you remember Jacob and Esau, how Jacob pretended to be Esau. Do you remember that story? Yeah, Jacob pretended to be Esau. He dressed up like Esau so that he could smell like Esau, and he put even goat's hair on his arms and legs and by his neck to trick their father, Isaac, to pretend that he is Esau. Because why? Jacob wanted to steal the birthright of Esau. Esau was older. They were twins, but Esau came first. So Esau had the birthright. So Jacob stole the birthright from Esau, and he got it. God blessed him and gave him the birthright. So here at the end, Jacob is staying now for 17 years in Egypt with Joseph. That's what we ended with last week. And Jacob was so glad that he could see not only his son, but also his grandchildren, Ephraim and Manasseh. And when Jacob felt that he's going to die, he called his children. He's got 12 sons. He called them all and he said, okay, I want to bless you, and the blessing will come true. Okay? Jacob wasn't the only one that blessed the 12 sons of Israel. Moses did the same. Now remember what we said last week. Jacob adopted Ephraim and Manasseh as his own sons. So now he had 14 sons. Okay? If you can count. Now it's 14. So let's see what he said. In Genesis 48 we read the following. Then he blessed Joseph and said, May the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked faithfully, the God who has been my shepherd all my life to this day, the angel who has delivered me from all harm, may he bless these boys. So he's not blessing Joseph, he's blessing the sons. May they be called by my name and the names of my father Abraham and Isaac. And may they increase greatly on the earth. So what is the blessing he prays over them? That they will have lots of children. That they will have so many children that they can form their own nation. Verse 17. When Joseph saw his father placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he was displeased. So he took hold of his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. Joseph said to him, No, my father, this one is the firstborn. Manasseh is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know he too will become a people, and he too will become great, Nevertheless, his younger brother will be greater than he, and his descendants will become a group of nations. He blessed them that day and said, in your name will Israel pronounce this blessing. May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh. So he put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Now remember, Manasseh is the firstborn. So Jacob is now doing exactly what his dad did, but he's doing this on purpose now. He's making Ephraim, who is the secondborn, the head. He gives him a better blessing. Now you will see that there were more people in the tribe of Manasseh. Manasseh was by far bigger than Ephraim, but Ephraim became greater. Okay, so what happened was, when God talks about Ephraim, which means fruitful, then he refers to the whole Israel. Okay, so Ephraim and Israel became, the names became, you can use it either Ephraim or Manasseh, especially when God got upset with Israel when they started to serve idols. Then he said, Ephraim, you are naughty, I'm going to punish you. Okay, so Ephraim, the name Ephraim became very great. It represented the whole Israel. Okay, so let's see, what about the brothers? So, so every brother got a province. Okay, so you can see this is Israel in the time of Moses and Joshua. Okay, so let me just show you what is what here. This is a river Jordan. Can you see? There are other rivers also. There are little rivers flowing out or into the Jordan. Okay, the river Jordan starts in the mountains of the Lebanon mountains. So here are huge mountains here. This is the little lake of Hazor. We don't read much of that in the Bible. Okay, that's a lake. And then it flows down, 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 down into the Sea of Galilee. Okay, the Sea of Galilee is where Jesus walked on water, and that is where Peter and Andrew were fishermen here. Jesus grew up here in Naphtali, in the province called Naphtali, after the son of Jacob. Okay, Nazareth was here, and Galilee is here. Okay, all this later on, later on, when the Roman Empire came. Then the Jordan River carries on and 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 on. And remember, Jesus was baptized in the Jordan River, and here at Gilgal, there, the Jordan River opened up like the Red Sea when the Jews, when the Israelites left Egypt. Remember, God opened the Red Sea and they walked through the sea on dry ground. Now, the same happened twice here, in Gilgal. The Jordan River stopped to flow. It formed two walls, and they passed through the Jordan River during flood. They passed through on dry ground, and they camped here at Gilgal. Okay, so Gilgal is an important place. And then remember, they attacked Jericho, and they walked 7 days around Jericho. Okay, I'm just showing you here there. So if you look at a map, it makes more sense. And then here's the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is huge, much bigger than the lake of that one. Forgot the name now. Okay, but the Dead Sea is huge. And the prophecy said that the Dead Sea will come alive, and that is happening today. The Dead Sea is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller because there are too many people that use the water from the Jordan River. So there's less water that flows into the Dead Sea, and the sides of the Dead Sea form little pools with fresh water and fish. And in the middle of the Dead Sea, on the floor of the Dead Sea, fresh water is bubbling from the bottom. And they don't know where it comes from, but according to the prophecy, it comes from the throne of God. It comes from Jerusalem, underground streams from Jerusalem. But you can see Jerusalem is far, man. There's Jerusalem. Sorry, Jerusalem, and there's Bethlehem. Bethlehem is where Jesus was born. You can see in Judah, and Bethlehem is also where King David was born. King David and Jesus were born in Bethlehem. That's the town of King David. Okay. Now you can see Jerusalem is actually in the province of Benjamin, if you look nicely. Jerusalem is not in Judah. Jerusalem is in Benjamin. Okay. The plan is, I've got some inside information. They want to continue with the Dead Sea and make a river from here to the Persian Gulf. Okay, to the Red Sea. So that the Dead Sea will stop being dead totally. It will just become part of the Jordan River. That is the future plans. I don't know when they will do that. Okay, but let's look at the sons. If we can find the provinces of every son. Now, okay, we know that Reuben was the oldest. Reuben and here. So you can see there are 3 provinces east of the Jordan River. Okay. And then there are countries here that Israel were not allowed to attack because they were family. You know Esau and Jacob? That is where Esau or Edom, same person. This is the brother of Israel, the brother of Jacob. So Israel were not allowed to attack them or to take their country. Sometimes they had wars because they were fighting like brothers, but they were not allowed to take the country. Moab was also family. Moab was the son of Lot. You know, when God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, and Lot and his 2 daughters ran away. Now Moab was a son of Lot, and Ammon was also a son of Lot. So they were actually family. So this country and that country and that country, they were not allowed to invade them and take their countries. Okay, they were not allowed to. They were family. Aram is where Abraham came from. Aram stayed there for several years with his father Terah. So the family of Jacob and Abraham are also in Aram. Okay, so they they stayed in Aram many years before Abraham decided to move when God sent him away. And he moved all the way down here, and he got to Beersheba. There's Beersheba. And remember that Beersheba became the home of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, so here's Reuben. Secondly, Simeon. You can see Simeon is a province inside a province. So Simeon doesn't have their own sea. I suppose they had rivers. But Simeon was inside of Judah. Levi, now you can see, there's not a province called Levi. Okay, and we will find out now why not. Alright. Judah, yeah, Judah. You can see Judah is big also. Issachar, there's Issachar. Okay, we can find that. Zebulon or Zebulun, there it is there, just above Issachar. Gad, there's Gad, he's also on the eastern side of the river. Asher, Asher is here. Tyre was a very well known, Sidon and Tyre, very well known harbors. And Asher is very close to the Phoenicians. So this became Phoenician country. Phoenician means purple because they used a very expensive purple dye that they got from some snail. And these guys, the Phoenicians, were very rich because they traded with ships and purple material. And Phoenicians were actually Greek descendants. Okay, so that's a little bit of information there. And then we have Dan. Dan, they were given this country, this province here, but the Philistines in Joppa, the Philistines here, were too strong for them. And Dan, they couldn't live here because the Philistines keep on attacking them. And the Philistines had metal chariots and metal weapons, and Dan didn't have. Okay, so Dan left. They just left the province, and they went all the way up to there. You can see a city called Dan. So the whole province moved to that city. Okay, I don't know if a few of them stayed behind. A very well known person from Dan is Samson. Samson was from the tribe of Dan, but they gave up. They just left. I think after Samson died, they decided, no, let's get out of here, and they moved there. All right, Naphtali. Naphtali, that's what we said. This is where Jesus grew up in Nazareth. Okay, and a lot of heathens, a lot of non-Israelites stayed here. So Naphtali got the name that it is dark. Okay, dark because lots of idol worshippers stayed here and joined them. Joseph, okay, Joseph is not here because in the place of Joseph we have his sons. Now look, Manasseh are so many because of the blessing of Jacob. Manasseh found had got two provinces, so big were they. And here's Ephraim, in the middle. Okay, here is Ephraim. Now remember, we said Ephraim was blessed in importance. Okay, the name of Ephraim became great. And then we have Benjamin, the last born, and there is Benjamin. Okay, and as I said, Benjamin is not big. There's Bethel. Okay, that is where Rachel died, the favorite wife of Jacob, Bethel. And that Bethel is also where Jacob had those dreams of the angels that went up and down on the ladder. Bethel means house of God. And Jerusalem was actually in the province of Benjamin, not in Judah. Okay, does this make sense to you? So let's carry on. What does the Bible say? Then Jacob called for his sons and said, gather around so I can tell you what will happen to you in days to come. So what we call this prophecy. Let me prophesy what will happen in future. Assemble and listen, sons of Jacob. Listen to your father Israel. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, the first sign of my strength, excelling in honor, excelling in power, turbulent. Now that's important. Turbulent as the waters. You will no longer excel, for you went up onto your father's bed, onto my couch, and defiled it. Oops. Reuben, was supposed to be the leader of the 12 sons. But because he was naughty, okay, he did something naughty on his father's bed. Okay, so because of that, he will excel no longer. He's turbulent, means he can get angry. He's powerful and rough, storming forward. Okay, so but we see he got his place there, right, with all his cousins. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Their swords are weapons of violence. And that's true. Simeon and Levi were very, very aggressive and very violent brothers. They attacked the Philistines, Shechem, because Shechem raped their sister Dinah, and Simeon and Levi attacked them and killed the whole city. Okay, so Simeon and Levi were very aggressive, short-tempered, and very full of violence. Let me not enter their council. Let me not join their assembly, for they have killed men in their anger, and hamstrung oxen as they pleased. So Jacob says, listen, I don't want to be part of the conversation of Simeon and Levi, because it's always mean and violent. So let's see Simeon. Now Levi is nowhere here. We have Simeon. Simeon is there. He's part of Judah, and Levi is nowhere. Okay. So what happened? The tribe of Simeon disappeared. The tribe of Simeon disappeared because Judah, it disappeared. It mixed with Judah, and also at a stage, Simeon left Judah because they were angry at Judah and they went north. But Simeon also, by the time they arrived in Israel, they were half the amount of people that they originally were, because they rebelled against Moses also. And according to Jewish sources, Simeon left. They totally left. They went to Europe. They went to Europe and they started their own country there. So Simeon didn't want to be part of this. They were too aggressive. So they disappeared actually. And you can see Levi also disappeared. But Levi was actually promoted because they used their anger against their brothers. What happened was, when their brothers started to worship the golden calf, remember Aaron made a golden calf and the people had a huge party worshipping the golden calf, which is idol worship. Then Levi took their swords, the people of Levi, and they punished all these people that were part of the party. And they killed thousands of their own brothers and sisters with their sword. And Moses said, okay, because you used your anger this time to the honor of God, I will make you, God makes you the priests of Israel. So all the Levites became dedicated to the temple of God. Not priests, only the family of Aaron became priests, but the Levite tribe became the dedicated tribe to the temple of God. So the Levites were scattered all over. So you will have Levite cities in every province. There were Levite cities in every province. So they were scattered. It says here, verse 7, cursed be their anger, so fierce, and their fury, so cruel. I will scatter them in Jacob and disperse them in Israel. And here, when Jacob said this, he didn't know exactly how it will happen. But this is a prophecy that they will be scattered. And it's exactly what happened. They were scattered. There was no, you will see later, the tribe of Simeon is nowhere. And the tribe of Levi is nowhere also. They were scattered among all the Israelites. Prophecy over Judah. Now, Judah was the fourth son. If you remember now, it's Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. He's the fourth son. So he became the new leader of the 12 sons of Israel. And even in the history, Judah tried to save Joseph when they sold him. Judah, your brothers will praise you. Now that's beautiful because the name Judah means praise. Your brothers will praise you. They look up to him. He's a leader. And he's a good leader. Okay. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down to you. Okay, listen to this. Now we know in the dreams of Joseph that the brothers will bow down to Joseph. True. But now after that, all the kings of Israel came from the tribe of Judah. King David was from the tribe of Judah. Jesus is from the tribe of Judah. And all King David's children that became king after him, they all were from the tribe of Judah. So the rest of the nation, all the brothers will bow down to Judah because Judah became the royal province, the royal tribe. You are a lion's cub. Now, isn't Jesus called the Lion of Judah? You are a lion's cub, Judah. You return from the prey, my son, like a lion. He crouches and lies down, like a lioness who dares to rouse him. The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet. The scepter, okay, the king, the golden wand, the stick in a king's hand. Um, until he to whom it belongs shall come, and the obedience of the nations shall be his, until Jesus comes, because Jesus is also from the tribe of Judah. So there has not been a king again from the tribe of Judah since Jesus, because Jesus is still king, okay, and he's not going to stop being king until Jesus, to whom it belongs, shall come, the scepter, and the obedience of the nations shall be Jesus's. Okay, so we know Jesus is the Lion of Judah. Hallelujah. So let's see what Jacob said about every son. Zebulun, there it is, will live by the seashore and become a haven for ships. His border will extend towards Sidon. Now this is strange because Joshua gave Zebulun no sea. Okay, so I think what happened was they moved. Okay, you will see later on. Later on, this map is going to be totally mixed up. And Zebulun moved because they wanted to be at the sea. Joshua, he decided, where every brother must have his province. Issachar is a raw-boned donkey. That means he's a hard worker, lying down among the sheep pens. When he sees how good is his resting place and how pleasant is his land, he will bend his shoulder to the burden and submit to forced labor. So he's a quiet softy, but a hard worker. Issachar was also well known as being wise. Okay, these quiet people are sometimes very wise people also because they look and they are looking at everyone and they are watching them and they are thinking a lot. Now, Issachar was well known for the wise people, the wisest in Israel. Okay. Dan. Where's Dan? Whatever. Oh yeah, Dan is the province that moved. Okay, Dan, yeah. Dan will provide justice for his people as one of the tribes of Israel. The word Dan means judge. Dan will be a snake by the roadside, a viper along the path that bites the horse's heels so that its rider tumbled backwards. Now Dan was like that. Dan would get so cross with Israel that he will attack the whole, he also will attack the whole Israel as enemy. So Dan was a bit, he had his own sense of right and wrong. But as I said, they moved up there. Okay, let's carry on. Gad will be attacked by a band of raiders, but he will attack them at their heels. So Gad is there. So Gad also a bit of a victim, but he will take revenge, and take revenge without them expecting it. Asher's food. Oh, here's the chef of the brothers. Asher's food. Oh, there's Asher at the sea. Asher's food will be rich. He will provide delicacies fit for a king. Naphtali, that's where Jesus grew up, is a doe set free that bears beautiful forms. So Naphtali was a beautiful. Maybe he was the model of the brothers. He was the prettiest brother. Is a doe set free that bears beautiful forms. He's gentle and kind and pretty, beautiful. Okay, that's Naphtali there. And as I said, that became the dark province, that no one could believe that something good can come from there. Okay, especially from Nazareth. I just quickly want to show you when David became king, that brown part, this is how big his kingdom was. So you must remember what happened. When Joshua died, then the Israelites started to serve idols, and they turned their back on God. So God allowed the Moabites to rule over them and to destroy them. Then he also sent the Arameans, the Ammonites, the Philistines, all the countries around had a turn, even the Edomites, to attack Israel and to destroy Israel, make slaves of them, because Israel kept on turning their back on God. And every time Israel will cry, this is the book of Judges, and every time Israel will cry to God, please save us, and then God will send a judge or a deliverer, like Samson and Gideon and Samuel and people like that. Okay, and eventually, after Samuel, the people asked, "Oh, can't we be a kingdom like the rest? Give us a king." Okay, and when King Saul, sorry, this brown is King Saul. Now, King Saul was not from Judah; he was from Benjamin. Okay, we won't have time now to go into that, but this is King Saul. How big his kingdom was. They were just getting it back from the Philistines. Then King David came, and King David fought against all these. And King David made it as big as possible. Now you can see there, they lost this to Phoenicia. Okay, well there's Tyre. Okay, we still have it there. Okay, there's Phoenicia, the Philistines. Greeks, purple. And here are the Philistines. So the Philistines, they were hard to conquer. Okay, they were always a pain. Okay, here we have um, the kingdom of Israel and Judah torn in two. So after Solomon, now Solomon made his kingdom even bigger than King David's until the Euphrates River. But when King Solomon died, there was a fight. So the fight was between Judah, the royal tribe, against the rest. But you can see Jerusalem is still here. So it means Bethlehem, it means Benjamin. Benjamin was still with Judah. So the two tribes, Judah and Benjamin, against the 10 tribes. Okay, so there are the 10 tribes fighting against the two tribes. And never again were they united again until later. Okay, so for many years, many thousands of years, they were two different kingdoms. Where's Simeon? You can see Simeon was not even here. They took their things and left. There, you can see the Philistines. Okay, Edom, Moab, Ammon, Aram, they all got, remember, they were part of David's and Solomon's kingdom, but they were never invaded. They just they were subdued to Israel. Okay, they were subdued, they had to pay taxes, but they kept their own thing. Okay, Israel today, much smaller than originally what was promised to Israel. Okay, God promised them how big Israel was in the time of Solomon. That is how the area God promised to Abraham. So even today, what happened was the Muslims ruled over Israel for 1,000 years. Now recently, until World War II, the Muslims conquered Israel, and there were no Jewish people there, maybe two. Okay, but it was totally Muslim. After World War II, Britain and the USA commanded the Muslims to leave, to make space, and they invited all Israelites to come back. It's called Jews after Judah, because the northern kingdom disappeared. We call it the lost tribes of Israel. The 10 tribes of Ephraim, of Israel, disappeared. We call them the lost tribes. Now that's a different lesson. Very interesting what happened to them and where we found them afterwards. But this is today what is left of Israel. They gave that now the Gaza Strip. Now they are fighting. Of course, these people stayed 1,000 years. The Muslims stayed 1,000 years here, and they were just commanded to leave. So that is where all the fighting comes from today. Here is the West Bank. There is the Golan Heights. All right, but this little bit is smaller than the Free State. This is today's Israel. They are surrounded by Muslims. The whole Egypt, the whole place here is Muslim, and they are the only ones. And sometimes they were fighting them, and Israel wins every time because God is with them. Now, this is the end of the lesson. I want to remind you that Moses also prophesied over Israel. That's Deuteronomy 33. And it's very interesting if you look at that chapter and compare it with what Jacob said, and compare it with what is happening today. Okay, God bless.